I've got some good news and I've also got some bad news. The good news is that after closing over 4 million in high ticket sales, netting hundreds of thousands in commissions, working with some of the biggest names and coaching dozens of people to achieve similar results, I have built an exact 4-step process that anybody can use and follow to get started in high ticket sales, to make the money that you want and live the life that you want. The bad news is that after watching this video, there's going to be no more excuses because you're going to have everything that you need. So really lock in for this one, take notes, study it, and most importantly, execute on the process. And I promise you, if you do that, you will be making the money that you want to make in the near future. So let's first off go through an overview of the 4 steps, exactly what's about to happen, and then we'll dive in. There are 4 steps to get started in high ticket sales, to make the big money and live the life that you want. We're going to go into each step in monumental detail in this video, but to give you a very brief overview, the first step, nice and simply, is understanding how this industry actually works, like what your role is, who hires for these roles, how much can you earn, what's the process, just essentially what's actually going on. If you're experienced, maybe you're currently working in high ticket sales, you can probably skip to the second step, which is understanding the fundamentals, the deep psychological principles that go into high ticket sales. So important, guys. Trust me, this is not selling some $30 gym membership, right? You are going to be selling products and services ranging from 5 up to even 30,000 and beyond. What that means is it's often a very significant purchase to the person that you're selling to, and therefore there's a lot of skill and psychology that goes into doing this successfully. And by the end of that second step, you're going to have the exact knowledge on the deep psychology that goes into closing high ticket deals. So the fundamentals is more of the why, but the third step is more of the how. So I'm going to run you through the actual process of how to run a high ticket sales call, exactly what to do, exactly what to say, so that you can close deals and cash those commission checks. The fourth and final step is my personal favorite. This is the exact step-by-step process to land a high ticket sales role with a great company. Guys, I promise you, if you watch this video until the end, again, if you really study it, take notes, and then execute on the process to land a role, you will be making the money that you want to make in the very near future. I'm talking 10, 20, maybe even 30,000 a month and upwards if you are really that good. So, like I said, we're going to cover all 4 steps in detail. I am excited. Like I said, no more excuses after this. You're going to have everything that you need. But for those who do want to work closer with me, have me as your mentor and really fast track your success, there's a link in the description for that. And with that being said, let's go. Boys, the video we're about to dive into is slightly more tailored for beginners because it's a full intro guide to high ticket sales, exactly how it works, how much you can earn, what will determine how much you can earn, what the benefits are, who actually hires for these roles, and more. So, a ton of value for those of you that are looking to become high ticket closers, or if you are an experienced closer, there's still some value you'll be able to take from this as well. So, lock in, enjoy. I always like to start off any of my lessons. I like to start off by defining what we're actually talking about. Okay, so what is high ticket sales? And if we think about that phrase, it has 2 parts to it, right? We've got high ticket and we've got sales. Now, the high ticket part, what that means is simply products or services that are priced above $3,000. Okay, but more typically, when you're a high ticket closer, what you're going to be selling is more often above $5,000. So the average range of what you'll be selling is between $5,000 to $15,000. So that's what high ticket means, anything that's priced above $3,000. And then we've got another aspect of that phrase, sales, which nice and simply is the exchange of money for a product or service. And what these are, guys, what you're going to be selling and what you're going to be closing, these are not your everyday purchases, and therefore selling high ticket products and services, it requires skill, okay? But it is a skill that, if mastered, can completely financially transform your life. And it can transform your life in more ways than just money, as we're going to get into in just a second, okay? But ultimately it requires skill, and that's what this program is for. It's designed to give you the foundational principles, the fundamentals of high ticket sales, which is what we cover in Module 1. It's designed to give you the correct mindset and beliefs to actually close high ticket deals, which is Module 2. It's designed to give you the specific applicable skills to close high ticket sales, which is what we cover in Module 3. And it's designed to give you a system, the network, and the process to actually secure a great high ticket sales role with a great company. And then beyond that, it's designed to give you the continued training to take your high ticket sales skills from good to elite, which is what we cover in Module 5, as well as the ongoing live coaching with me, okay? Ultimately, what we're doing here is giving you the knowledge, the skills, the beliefs, and the mindset to be able to close high ticket sales and make absolutely life-changing money for both yourself and your family. I've experienced this firsthand. just how much this can change your life. And it's why, if you haven't already been able to tell, it's why I'm so passionate about this, okay? So how does it actually work? Now, you can think of your role in high ticket sales or high ticket closing as a middleman, okay? So what happens is you are the middleman between a potential customer who's booked in a call to speak about potentially buying that company's product or service and them being a customer, okay? They're a potential customer and them actually being a customer, you are that middleman. So your role is to act as the bridge between the company's online marketing and them being a paying customer. Now, what does that actually mean? It means that you are the cash collector. You are the revenue generator. You play the most important role in that company. And that's why you get paid very, very well. Think about it. A company, what does it need to survive? It needs cash coming in. It needs revenue coming in. And if you are the person that brings that revenue in, guess what? You play the most important role. And that's why you get paid very, very well. Okay. So here's a little bit more detail. This is the exact sequence of what happens in high ticket sales. So I've put together this image here. And what will happen is a company runs online marketing. And there's typically 3 different types of online marketing that they run. We've got paid ads, which is typically Facebook ads, Instagram ads, or Google ads, or YouTube ads. And then we've got inbound. So what that is people and companies that have maybe a big following on social media. Maybe they've got a lot of subscribers on YouTube or a big following on Instagram. They drive people to a call. And then the final one, this one is not really that common, and this is called outbound. So if you think about like cold email, cold calling, cold messaging. And don't worry, guys, I want to put this straight out there. You are not in this role going to have to cold call one bit whatsoever. Your job is just to simply take the call. Okay, it's a beautiful benefit of being a closer. You'd have to be a little bit of a psychopath to enjoy cold calling, but don't worry, you're not going to have to be doing any type of cold messaging, cold emailing, cold calling. Your job is just to simply take the call. Okay. So that's what happens. So first step, the company will run that online marketing. And what that does is, as you can see in the diagram, all of this marketing, all roads lead to a booked call, with you. So the potential customer, and by the way, you can also call them prospects, what happens is they see this marketing, they get interested, and they book a call. Okay, so they'll schedule a day and time. And what will happen is between booking the call and the actual day and time of the call, they'll receive reminders via email, via text, and sometimes a phone call. You won't have to be the one doing the phone call, but sometimes they'll receive a phone call from the company. This is what's called a pre-call sequence, okay? It's designed to warm prospects up for conversion, build that trust, build that desire before they get onto the call with you. And also just maximize the amount of prospects that are actually showing up, okay? And there's a metric that we track that with, and that metric is called show up rate. Then what happened is, so just to very quickly recap, so the company runs the online marketing. That brings potential customers who book in a call because they're interested in buying that company's product or service. And then the prospect will show up on the day and time of the call, okay? And the calls are conducted over Zoom in 90% of cases. And what happens is you as the closer, you take the call and you run them through the sales process, okay? And then when the prospect purchases through you on that Zoom call, you collect a percentage of the deal size when somebody signs up. And there'll be more on, commission percentages, how much you can earn, etc. in just a second. Okay, so let's dive into that. How much can you actually earn? Now, the commission structure, it varies between companies, but on average, a company will pay you 10 to 15% of the total deal size. So nice and simple maths. Let's say that, for example, what you're selling is $10,000. And the company pays 10% commission to their closers for every sale closed. That means, so 10% of $10,000, you'll make $1,000 per sale that you close. So typically on average in this industry, we're collecting anywhere really between $500 to $2,000 for every single deal that you close. Now, beyond just the commissions, you'll also get bonuses. Most companies will also have some kind of bonus structure in place. So, for example, a company I used to work for, they did every single week, they would give $1,000 to the top performer of that week, the closer who closed the most deals. Or, for example, at the end of the month, a $5,000 for hitting a certain number, hitting a certain target. And typically, you can earn an extra $1,000 to $5,000 every single month just in bonuses alone, okay? Just bonuses, an extra $1,000 to $5,000 a month on top of your commissions. Now, how much you'll earn, as we'll discuss in more detail, how much you'll earn will be based on 3 things. It'll be based on your skill level, which is what I cover in modules 1, 3, and 5, plus continuous live coaching with me. It will also be determined by your mindset and your beliefs, and that's what we cover in Module 2, again, alongside the live coaching. And then third and finally, it will be based on the company that you sell for, okay? And that's what we cover in Module 4 and the continued live coaching, okay? Getting in with an absolutely great company. With all this being said, what can you actually earn? Typically, as a closer, you can earn anywhere from $10,000 a month to $30,000 a month. Now, as a disclaimer, I do know closers who make upwards of $40,000 a month, $50,000 a month. I even know one particular guy who's made $80,000 in 1 month of closing. But the thing is that I give the $10,000 a month to $30,000 a month range because that's what's typical. Okay, somebody earning, 40, $50K a month. It is possible, but in my experience, it's fairly rare. Okay, so the range I give is $10,000 a month to $30,000 a month. Okay, but it is possible. It is possible to earn above that. Okay, now $10,000 to $30,000 a month is quite a big range, right? And I've been in this industry for years. I've taken thousands of calls. I've worked alongside many, many different closers, some of the best closers in the world, and I've seen all different types of people earn different amounts of money. And ultimately, what that means is that I've been able to observe and know exactly what actually determines how much an individual closer will make. So let's dive into that. Now, below $10,000 a month, if you're a closer earning below $10,000 a month, just putting it bluntly, this is not good. Okay, it's not good to be earning under $10K a month in closing. If you're earning below this, it's because something is going wrong. Okay. To get specific, if you're earning below $10,000 a month, it will be because one of or a combination of the below things, either skill level, so your skill level is just not where it needs to be, and or the company that you're working for is just simply not good. Okay, maybe they've got bad lead flow, maybe they've got a bad product, a bad reputation. It'll be one of those things. Okay, earning $10,000 a month, or should I say earning below $10,000 a month in closing is not very good at all. Okay, $10,000 a month is actually at the low end. Okay. The next kind of level that we've got is $10,000 a month to $20,000 a month. So if you're earning between $10,000 a month to $20,000 a month, this is about what the average of what a decent closer makes. Okay, so typically, if you're earning this amount, you're at a stage of having either one or both of the below combinations. So skill level. So, you're a decent closer, you've got decent skills, you're not incredible, but you're also not bad. Okay, you know what you're doing and you know how to close deals fairly regularly. And or the company that you're working for, the company you work for is good. Again, not amazing, but also not bad. The company has good lead flow. It's got a good product. They've got some good reviews and a good reputation. Now, as a side note here, if your skill level is not that good, but you just happen to be working for an amazing company, you can still actually earn between $10,000 to $20,000 a month, right? I've worked for some companies, one particular in the past, a guy called Charlie Morgan, who had a great product, very good reputation, hundreds of positive reviews. And so it was just very easy to close deals on that offer. You could actually come into that offer, not in all honesty be that good and still make 10, 15, 20,000 a month. But the thing is that we shouldn't rely on having poor skills but getting in with an amazing company, okay? So working with me, we are going to train you to get to a good skill level and then to get to an elite skill level, okay? So let's talk about that. Earning above $20,000 a month. And earning consistently above $20,000 a month is where we hit the life-changing money. This is the level that we have that financial freedom, that time freedom, and you're really looked up to and respected as the phenomenal provider for your family, okay? They look up to you, their dad is a closer, okay? And this should be the goal. This is the goal for all my guys that I'm working with, to consistently earn above $20,000 every single month, okay? And to earn above $20,000 a month consistently, you'll need a combination of skill level, so you'll need to be a highly skilled closer. You rarely make mistakes, you know exactly what you're doing, and you have everything on point, everything dialed in. You've got your skills right, your mindset right, and you're working for a good company. And the company that you're working for is a good company, okay? It's got a good product, they've got a good reputation, they've got good reviews, etc. And I've summarized this in the below table, okay? So you'll see below $10,000 a month, not good, absolutely not good to earn below $10,000 a month in closing. $10,000 to $20,000 a month is about the average of what a decent closer makes. And above $20,000 a month, this is the goal, okay? This is really where I'm looking to get all my guys that I'm working with to consistently making above $20,000 a month. And for that, you'll need to be highly skilled and work for a good company, okay? Now, the fun part, what is the benefits of being in high ticket sales? In other words, being a high ticket closer. Number one is the obvious one, lucrative income potential. Because high ticket closing allows you to earn multiple six figures a year. By the way, by closing just a few deals a week. Okay, let me break down the maths quickly. So for example, let's say that you close 5 deals per week, which is one per day, a $5,000 product with 10% commission, you'll earn $120,000 a year by closing just one deal a day, okay? And typically you'll be conducting, 4, 5, 6 calls a day. So very, very easy to do that. Or if you're closing 5 deals per week, or again, closing 1 deal per working day at $10,000 with a 10% commission, you'll be making more like $250,000 per year. Again, by closing just 1 deal a day, bearing in mind you're going to be having 4, 5, 6 calls every single working day, okay? So that's the obvious one, making a ton of money, essentially, putting it bluntly. But the second one is time freedom, because the thing is, high ticket sales, high ticket closing, it focuses on fewer but higher value deals. And what that means is you don't need to grind out like 12-hour days or chase hundreds of small transactions, which I see so many sales professionals doing. They're, selling something for very small amounts of money, and therefore they have to really grind out those long, long days. But in high ticket sales, you can create a schedule that works for you and your family while earning great money, and often only working 6, 7, maximum 8 hours a day. I've experienced this firsthand, guys. I'm not going to say that, there is training required, but let me tell you guys, I've had days where I've worked in total 3-4 hours. I made about $1,000 in a day, okay? Most sales reps out there are just not able to do that because they're focusing on chasing, again, hundreds of those small transactions. We are focused on fewer volume, but higher transaction deals. It's just so much more of an efficient way to make great money while still actually having a lot of time freedom, okay? Now, the third one is location freedom, because in high ticket sales, we work remote. And what does that mean? It means that all you need to work is a laptop and an internet connection. So you might choose to work from home, or some closers that I know, they actually rent their own office for, $500 a month, something like that. You could go traveling, or you can move to another country. Okay, so let's say that, right now you're maybe based in the USA or the UK, which is a fairly, high cost of living. You could move to a cheaper country. So, there's a lot of different examples of that, but you can move to a cheaper country, work from there, and then you're earning the big money, the multiple 6 figures a year, but actually your expenses are way, way lower. Because you're remote, you can move to wherever you want, okay? Ultimately, you can work wherever you want when you're in high ticket sales. The fourth one is fast income growth. I really, really mean that. Fast income growth. This can all happen very quickly, guys, which is the beautiful thing about closing. So when you think about a traditional, working your way up the corporate ladder, it can take decades, guys. I've seen this. It can take decades until guys are in their 40s, 50s, 60s to start earning decent money. It's the same thing with building a business from scratch. It can take often years, sometimes decades, to begin seeing decent results and making decent money. But the beautiful thing about what we're doing as closers is that you can be earning literally life-changing money within a matter of months. I really, really mean that. I have seen guys as young as 21 years old. Specifically, there was a guy I used to work with. He was called Sebastian. He was 21 years old at the time. He came into high-ticket sales with no prior experience. And within just 1 year, he was making about $250,000 a year. So at 21 years old, in 1 year, he was making more than, for example, a doctor or a lawyer. Okay, this is fast, guys. This can change financially your life very, very rapidly. Fifth, skills that pay you for a lifetime. So success in high ticket closing, it's not about luck, not one bit. It's about mastering a skill. And the skill of being able to close high ticket sales at high ticket price points, again, $5,000 to $15,000, this is one of, if not the most valuable money-making skill that you can ever have. And you will take this with you for an entire lifetime. Now, to illustrate this, there was actually a recent survey of billionaires. And these billionaires were asked, what was the number one thing that led to your success? And over 80% of them said it was their ability to sell, okay? So you are now learning the most valuable financial skill in the world. And again, this skill can pay you and your family for an entire lifetime. What I'm about to say, guys, I really, really mean this. I've experienced this firsthand. That once you know and master this skill of being able to close high ticket sales, you will never, ever have to worry about money again. Again, I really, really mean that. Once you've mastered this skill, you know that at any point you can go and work for a company and make $200,000, $300,000 a year, sometimes even upwards of that. Okay, you will never have to worry about money again. You will be set for life. I mean that. Sixth and finally, this is actually one of my personal favorites. This is AI/future-proof. And I can tell you guys, I've done a lot of research onto this, and I actually know personally a few guys that are very deep in working in the AI world. And I can tell you for a fact that over the next few years or the next few decades, many, many jobs out there are going to be taken or replaced by AI, okay? From my observation, the masses of people out there, they don't know what's coming, okay? They don't know how much they are at risk of losing their jobs. But you guys, as closers, you are future-proofed with high-ticket sales because AI is not going to be able to replace high-ticket closers. Why? Because by the very nature of what we do, our very job is to connect with other human beings, right? To have a human conversation. Companies quite literally hire you to connect on an emotional level with other human beings, okay? And believe me, guys, if these companies could sell high-ticket products and services by just having like a buy now button online, trust me, guys, they would. But the thing is, they can't. And that's why they need to hire us. Because when people are buying high-ticket products and services that are priced, $3,000 and up, it's often a significant purchase to that person, and therefore they want a conversation with another human being. And trust me, no matter how good AI gets, people, when making significant investments, they will want to talk to another human being. That will be a constant for the next, hundreds of years. And high-ticket sales will be one of, if not in my opinion, the very last thing that AI can replace, if ever. I personally don't think that AI is going to ever be able to replace this, no matter how good the technology gets, okay? So while the masses of people out there, their jobs are going to get replaced, not ours, okay? We are in a perfect prime position to take advantage of what's coming in the future, okay? Now, lastly, guys, a question that I often get is who hires for these roles? And typically there are 5 different types of companies who will hire high-ticket closers. By the way, there are more than 5 types of companies, but these are the 5 most common. So you've got, first off, agencies. So you think about marketing agencies, sales agencies, AI agencies is becoming quite a big thing now. Email agencies. Actually, the first ever role that I got closing was for a marketing agency, a company called Fitness Marketing Agency, FMA. They ran marketing for gyms. That was my first closing role. The second one is what we call online education businesses. So people that sell high-ticket courses, high-ticket online training programs. Then thirdly, we've got online coaching businesses. So people that sell online coaching programs or packages. And then we've got online consulting businesses. And then lastly, we've got software businesses. So companies that sell high-ticket software solutions. And like I mentioned earlier, on average, what you'll be selling will be between $5,000 to $15,000. It might be slightly lower, might be slightly higher, but this is about the average, $5,000 to $15,000. And you'll be earning, on average, 10 to 12% of every deal that you close. Again, you only need to make one sale a day, to make that life-changing money, okay? If you start talking like more making 2 sales a day, then your life will completely change. I've experienced this firsthand. Now, by the way, guys, in Module 4, you'll learn in a lot more detail what the difference can be working with these companies, because there are differences between, for example, a marketing agency or selling software or online education. There's some certain differences, and you'll be able to find out which particular type of company will suit you best, okay? But for now, this is about giving you an overview, and then we'll get into the more specific details as you progress through working together and progress through the program, okay? So in summary, guys, high-ticket sales, or as it's often referred to, high-ticket closing, it involves selling on behalf of an established company, typically via a Zoom call. And what you'll be selling is a high-ticket product or services or service which will be priced above $3,000, but more typically priced between $5,000 to $15,000. And what happens is that company runs online marketing, which produces potential customers, or you can also call them prospects, who book in a day and time for a Zoom call to find out more information and potentially buy it, okay? And for every single prospect who signs up and purchases on your call, you will collect on average 10 to 15% of the deal size, okay? So on average, you're going to be collecting between $500 to $2,000 for every single deal that you close, okay? And like I mentioned, you can earn anywhere from $10,000 a month up to $30,000 a month, okay? There are closers that make more than that, but it's fairly rare. That's about the average, $10,000 a month to $30,000 a month. And again, that's quite a big range, right? So how much you'll earn will be determined by 3 factors: by your skills, by your mindset, and by the company that you work for, okay? And being a high-ticket closer can benefit your life in astronomical ways, guys. Astronomical ways. I've experienced this firsthand, and that's why I'm so passionate about it, okay? These astronomical ways it can benefit your life includes giving you the financial freedom and the time freedom that you desire. Remember, we're focused on higher ticket items, okay? So rather than chasing hundreds of small transactions, we're doing fewer calls, but collecting a lot more, okay? And it just ultimately means it's a lot more efficient. You can make great money while actually having a lot of time freedom, okay? And then lastly, we cover here that you'll typically be working on behalf of one of these 5 types of companies, either agencies, online education businesses, online coaching businesses, online consulting businesses, or software businesses. So, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure, okay? Hopefully this has given you a really good foundational understanding of what high ticket sales is, how much you can earn, what the benefits of it are, and I will see you in the next video. 4 key ingredients that we need to close a high ticket sale. And yes, like the cake analogy, there are other additional things which are nice. They may increase our chances of a sale, but ultimately without the 4 key ingredients that we're about to go through, a sale just simply cannot be made. So let's dive in. Ingredient number 1 is the desire to change, or the want to change. So as a little bit of a thinking exercise, guys, when somebody buys something from you, especially something that is a significant a purchase to them, like a high ticket sale often is, what are they ultimately buying? Think about it and try not to overcomplicate it. You could say, well, they're buying the outcome, they're buying the goal that they want. And yes, that is true, but we can simplify it even further. When somebody makes a high ticket purchase, what they are buying is change. Now, we could talk about whether they want that change out of pain, out of desire, or both, but in the rawest form, when somebody buys a high ticket product or service, they want a change. This cannot be emphasized enough. I know I'm repeating it, but it has to become ingrained in your mind that people buy change. This is the raw foundational ingredient of closing a high ticket sale, the desire for change. The prospect isn't buying a course, they're not buying, an agency service or a software. Yes, they're buying the outcome and goal that they want, but simplifying it even further, they are buying change. And this is an absolutely crucial point to understand, because if you have no desire for change, then you have no sale and therefore you have no commission. Now you'll see here, guys, this little diagram, and you'll see here it says, remember the inspiration desperation matrix from part 1. Now to briefly give context to this document that we're looking at here, this is part of like 50, 60 documents that I give to my guys that I'm working with, right? Hint, hint, link in the description for that. So where it says part 1, that's because that's referring to a previous document. Now, I'm going to make a full video on what I call the inspiration desperation matrix, because it's another point of monumental importance. But to briefly touch on it here to give you guys context, what I found in high ticket sales is that you'll get a lot of sales trainers that will say, people buy out of pain or people buy out of desire. And yes, that is true, but in my opinion, it never went quite deep enough. What I've found through thousands of calls, millions closed, a lot of reflection and analysis is that people buy on a spectrum of pain and desire. So I coined the term the inspiration desperation matrix. You'll see on the left hand side here, on this side of the matrix, we've got low pain, low desire, and we've got a sad face because that is not where somebody buys a high ticket product or service. On the right hand side, we've got high pain, high desire, and we've got big old dollar signs because that is when a high ticket sale is made. Now here's the key, guys. What a masterful salesperson does is nudge the prospect along the matrix, okay? The basic laws of physics state that nothing stays still. Everything is in motion. So you as a closer, every single word that comes out your mouth is going to move the prospect in some direction along this matrix. And what we want to do is nudge the prospect further into a state of high pain, high desire, which you could also call high inspiration, high desperation. Okay? Everything that you do is going to nudge the prospect along the matrix. You could also think of this, guys, like a video game. If you've played video games and your character's got a health bar, if your character gets hit, then the health bar goes down. If you do something good, it goes up. You can also kind of think of it like that. So in this diagram, the left-hand bar here represents a prospect's desire for change when they first jump onto a call with you. And the right-hand side represents a prospect's desire for change by the end of the call with you, by the end of your masterful sales process. Now, here's a point of importance as well. Some prospects are going to come to your calls already in just a massive state of needing change, a massive desire for change. And these are what we call lay down leads because they are easy to close. The thing is, though, this is the minority of people, right? People who actually just show up already in a massive desire for change. And if we want to make the big numbers, the money that changes our life, I'm talking 20, 30K a month upwards, we cannot rely on just waiting for these people to show up because it's the minority. As closers, we have to have the ability with all prospects to increase their desire for change. And how we increase their desire for change is through the use of skilled questioning and pitching. And there's going to be a lot more videos coming on that, so just subscribe to the channel to keep up to date. For now, this is about understanding the foundational principles behind why we actually do this. And then we're going to get into the more kind of tactical as we go throughout this channel. But what I want you guys to ingrain into your mind if you want to make big money is that with all I do on the call, I am looking to increase their desire for change. Every single word that comes out of your mouth should be in alignment with increasing the prospect's desire for change. So really keep this in mind throughout your entire calls. Make it a subconscious habit to think about, and that what you are ultimately selling is change. And through the use of skilled questioning and pitching, we are going to nudge the prospect further into a heightened state of desire for change. So to round off this ingredient, guys, the desire for change is the foundation behind everything. Of course, yes, we do need more ingredients, which we're about to get into to close a high ticket sale, but the desire for change is the most important. It's the raw foundation behind everything. Think about like a house of cards. If you wanted to knock a house of cards over, what would you do? You would cut out the base. Same thing if you're building a Jenga tower and you want to knock it down, what would you do? You'd cut out the base. Well, in high ticket sales, the desire for change is the base. Without this, nothing else matters, okay? There are more ingredients that we need, but this is the raw foundational ingredient. It's the most important. So with that being said, let's move on to the second ingredient we need to close a high ticket sale, the desire to change now, okay? So now that you understand that what you're selling is change and that a sale cannot be made unless the prospect has a desire for change, and that desire for change comes on a spectrum of pain and desire, here's the thing, here's a key point. The desire for change will not close the deal in of itself because the prospect also has to want the change now. Not in 6 months, not in 1 year, but now. I'll give you a practical example that illustrates this. I'm going to give you two scenarios. Scenario number one, let's say that you wake up one day and you've got a slight minor headache, right? It's there, it's noticeable, it's slightly annoying and slightly painful, but it's not like you're in this crazy state of pain where you can't think or do anything else. Now, in that scenario, in this minor headache, are you going to get in your car, drive, say, 20 minutes to the shop, buy some medicine to try and get rid of the headache? Well, you might do, you might not, okay? The chances of you taking action, i.e. driving to the shop and buying some medicine, are lower because it's only a slight headache. Now, contrast this with scenario number two. In this scenario, you wake up one day and it's a pounding headache. Like, it hurts, it's painful, and you can't think or do anything else because the headache is just so bad. Now, in this scenario, are you going to take action? Are you going to get in your car, drive to the shop and buy some medicine? Yes, absolutely. Why? Because the headache is so bad, it's so painful that you have to change your situation now. Here's where it gets important. It's an important distinguishment. In scenario one, the person does want to change. They genuinely want to change. They genuinely want to not have this lingering headache. But the pain isn't like so bad that they'll take action right now. They'll get in the car and drive to the shop. Again, monumentally important to understand this, because you could have a prospect who genuinely does have a desire to change, but if they are not deep enough along the inspiration-desperation matrix, then they might not want to change now. And then what happens? You'll get a think about it objection. So your job as a masterful salesperson, as a masterful closer, is to nudge the prospect further into a state where they both, number one, want to change, and number two, want to change right now. Masterful closers create a heightened state of urgency. And again, there'll be a lot more videos coming on this channel about creating urgency because this is massively important. So they not only heighten the prospect's desire to change, but they also heighten the prospect's desire to change now. Very, very important. The third ingredient, trust your system/process. Now, like I mentioned at the start of the video, the four things that make somebody a buyer are crucial ingredients, and you need all of them. So far we've been through that a prospect, a key ingredient, they have to have the desire for change, and they have to have the desire for change now. But again, this is not enough in of itself, and I'm going to give you another practical example to illustrate this. Now, let's say, for example, that I'm massively overweight. I'm far from it, by the way, but let's say that I am. Let's say that I urgently want to lose weight. So in this scenario, I do want to change, and I do want to change now. So what happens is I reach out to a fitness coach in order to get help with my weight loss. I jump on a sales call with this fitness coach and he explains his system/process. You could also call it methodology, essentially like the way that you help your prospects, okay? The strategy, the system process. But here's the thing. That fitness coach, his system and process that he uses to achieve weight loss is called the Atkins diet. And in this scenario, let's say that I've tried the Atkins diet before, but it did not work for me. I didn't lose the weight. I found it difficult to stick to. It made me feel terrible. So in this scenario, that fitness coach is going to have a very tough and truthfully unlikely job of closing me, unless he's highly skilled. Why? Because think about this, guys. Again, this is where it gets very important. In this scenario, I do want to change. I do want to change now. But the thing is, I do not trust his system/process for achieving the change that I want, okay? This is another diagram that I give to my guys, okay? On the left-hand side, you'll see we've got our stick man that's in his current painful state. On the right-hand side, you'll see our stick man in his desired state. In the middle, we've got, in the middle between these two islands, there is water and there is a bridge that connects the two islands. Now, in this context, what the bridge represents is how the prospect will get from where they are now, which is their current painful state, across to the other island, which is where they want to be, their happy desired state. So in simplified words, the bridge represents your specific system/process that's going to get them from where they are now to where they want to be. Very, very important, because remember, you're not selling a course, you're not selling an agency service or a software, you are selling change at the raw foundational level. So if the prospect doesn't believe that your specific process will get them the change that they want, then a sale will not be made, okay? Very, very important. We are selling change. So the prospect has to trust that your specific process will get them the change that they want. Very, very important. The fourth ingredient, they must have the financial resources to sign up, right? It's a pretty, simple ingredient to understand, right? They have to have the money, essentially. So for example, if what you're selling is $10,000 and the prospect only has $4,000 to their name and bad credit, then you just simply cannot make the sale, okay? Now, a key difference to understand is that there is a big difference between a prospect who just physically does not have access to the money required and a prospect who does have it but is not willing to part ways with the money, who's not willing to spend it with you, okay? It's very, very important distinguishment to make. And again, I train my guys up massively on how to handle financial objections. And I'm going to drop some game to you guys about financial objections. That's going to be coming very, very soon. But in summary, in order to make a sale, for a prospect to be a buyer, we need four main things. Ingrain this in your mind. With all that you do on the sales call, on your sales calls, think about these four ingredients that you have to have. Number one, the prospect must have a desire for change. They must have a desire to change now. They must trust/believe that your process will get them the change that they want. And lastly, the prospect has to have the money available to actually purchase. Elite closers, elite salespeople, what they do is they nudge the prospect further into a heightened state of desire for change. And they also nudge them further along the matrix into a heightened state of urgency, i.e. a desire to change now. What elite closers also do is they can effectively demonstrate why their process will achieve the change that the prospect wants, which is called bridging the gap. And elite closers are able to discern between when a prospect just physically does not have the money or when they do have it, they just don't want to spend it with you, okay? Very, very important, guys. So I hope you enjoyed this video. This is just, we're scratching the surface here. There's going to be so much content coming out that I know is going to really, really help you guys. Make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. If you do want to work a little bit closer with me, there's a link in the description, and I'll see you very, very soon. Okay, guys, this is the exact closing process. This is exactly how to conduct a high-ticket sales call, exactly what to do, exactly what to say, so that you can close deals and cash those big commission checks. So, first off, we're going to walk through a high-level overview, a sort of a 30,000-foot view of a high-ticket sales call. So, there are 5 macro phases in a high-ticket sales call. We're going to go into each phase in a lot more detail. But to run you through it, the first phase, so literally, soon as the call starts, phase number 1 is what's called rapport/set agenda. Phase number 2 is called the discovery phase. Some people, you can also call it the questioning phase. Phase number 3 is the pitch. Phase number 4 is the close. And then depending on what happens in the close, phase number 5 is either onboarding, so taking payment, getting the prospect set up, or objection handling. We're going to go into each phase in a lot more detail. Let's start off with a couple of side notes. Keep the foundational principles in mind, guys. Really, really important. Like, the understanding and the application of the foundational principles that we've been through. So earlier in the video, or if you are a client of mine, you know that I go deep into the fundamentals and the foundational principles. Your understanding and application of those principles, honestly, equates to about 80% of your results. Like, Yes, this is very important what we're about to go through, exactly how to conduct a call, what to say, etc. But again, your application of the fundamentals is really what's going to account for most of your success, okay? So you need to really deeply understand, like, why would somebody buy? Because if you know at a deep level why somebody would buy, then you will always intuitively know exactly what to say. Like my guys that I work with, my clients, although I do provide them with scripts and word tracks, things like that, they don't need a script because they understand the fundamentals deeply. They always just intuitively know exactly what to say. So, highly recommend that you watch this video, especially the fundamentals. Go back and rewatch it a couple of times. The second side note is to remember, you are the leader of the call, right? In high ticket sales, it's, most people are booking in from like maybe an advert or maybe some organic content. Yes, in some companies they rely heavily on outbound, so cold email, cold call, etc. But it's a lot more rare in my experience. So in the vast majority of cases, you didn't reach out to the prospects, like they booked in with you at least 90% plus of the time. So really remember that you're in charge. You are the leader of this call, and it's your job to guide the prospect through the process. Which, by the way, that's what prospects want. They want to be led by somebody who they feel is competent, who's somebody who is ethical, and all that good stuff. Now, with that being said, let's go through each phase in detail. Phase number one, like I said, as soon as the call starts, we are in the rapport phase. Now, the rapport phase is a very quick phase of a high-ticket sales call. It lasts about 30, 60 seconds max. You really don't want to overdo it. And the key objectives here is to, number one, show the prospect that you are a real person, right? Like, it's very easy, if you don't do this, the prospect comes to the call and you're just a sales guy in their mind. But if you do rapport right, they'll really see you as, you are a real human, essentially. The second key objective of the rapport phase is to set the agenda, or what you can also call frame the call. Very, very important. So all we're going to do here in the initial phase of the rapport phase is have a very friendly, normal conversation, just like you were just speaking to a friend that you haven't spoken to in a while. And it would go something like, hey, Jeffrey, how you doing? I'm good, thanks, yeah. It's a very cold and wet morning here in London, but nothing that I'm not used to. Whereabouts are you calling from? I think I saw California, is that right? I'll say, yeah. And then once you've had around 10 to 30 seconds of chat, you then want to set the agenda for the call, which again, you can also call this framing the call. Now, this is very, very important. We set the agenda of the call, or we frame the call for two primary reasons. Number one, to set a frame of leadership and authority. And again, the clients that are working with me, I go into this in heavy, heavy detail. It's very, very important. The second reason that we frame the call is to let the prospect know what to expect, like nice and simply. So by setting the agenda at the start of the call, what we do is build the authority frame. Again, my guys that I'm working with know all about frames and the frames that we want and how it all works. But essentially, we take control of the call, we take leadership of the call, and what we also do on a subconscious level is let the prospect know that we're in charge of the call. Like, this is how it's going to go, okay? Now, as a side note, remember, like, prospects and even just human beings in general, they want to be led. They don't just want to be led by anyone, but they want to be led by a competent leader, led by somebody that they feel is competent, which is the authority frame, essentially, and also has their best interests at heart, which is what we call the moral frame. So don't ever feel bad or guilty for taking charge of the call. Like, especially some of you guys that are maybe a little bit more lean on like the people pleaser type archetype. Like, do not worry about, taking charge and letting them know, hey, this is my call, this is how it's going to go. Like, don't feel bad about that. It's what prospects want, to be led. Now, also, when we let the prospects know what to expect, it puts their mind at ease, because human beings crave a certain amount of certainty. Like, we crave an element of predictability. We like to know what's coming and what to expect. When we know what's about to happen, it puts our mind at ease. And this same principle applies in high-ticket sales calls, that when we frame the call, we essentially tell the prospect what's about to happen, and therefore it makes them feel more relaxed, it makes them feel more at ease, it means they'll open up more to you, which is what we want, if we want to close the deal. That will lead to higher chances of closing. So an example of framing the call is, I've got a couple of different scripting for this, but we'll go through one. So let's say we've been through about 30 seconds of chit-chat. Again, we do not want to overdo chit-chat. We don't want to seem like we're seeking their approval, which lowers our status. So, yeah, 30 seconds of chit-chat. Where you're from? I'm from here. XYZ. Okay, great stuff. Well, if you're happy, Jeffrey, we'll dive straight in, see if there's anything we can maybe help you with. Perfect. So to give you an idea of how this call is going to go and what to expect, at the start of the call, I'm going to ask you some questions, really trying to get a better understanding of yourself, your goals, your situation, ultimately to see, if we could even potentially help you. Based on those answers, if it turns out we can definitely help, and that you'll definitely be a good fit, I'll go ahead and run you through exactly what we do. And then at the end, if it's something that we do both want to do, I'll go ahead and get you onboarded. If for whatever reason it's not, by the way, that's also totally fine. At the very least, happy to point you in the right direction of somebody that can help. Does that all sound good to you? I'll say yes, and then you roll in. So a couple of side notes here. You'll see I highlighted the word "that's also totally fine." This is a very, very important sentence in framing the call, because we are letting the prospects know that if for whatever reason one of us doesn't want to sign up, then we don't care. Like, that's no problem. Now, we do this for three primary reasons. Again, it's a very important sentence in that framing the call. We do this to, number one, relieve sales pressure, okay? Remember, in order to maximize our chances of actually closing the sale, we want prospects in a very calm, very relaxed state. So some prospects, they can come to the call and they are maybe apprehensive of like, fuck, is this guy just going to pressure me and da-da-da. And we're essentially letting them know that, hey, there's no pressure to buy or not to buy. Now, very, very important. That doesn't mean that if they give us a think about it objection or something that we're just going to fold and say, yeah, no problem. It doesn't mean that. But we're just subtly implying like we do not care. Now, what this also does is, secondly, it builds the moral frame. So when we frame the call in this way, it allows us to build the authority frame because we've taken leadership of the call. But also by framing the call right and using those words outlined above, it helps us build the moral frame, because think about that wording. That's also totally fine. And at the very least, I'd be happy to point you in the right direction of somebody that can help. Now, those words tell the prospect that you are genuinely here to help. You're not just here to make a sale. Because again, even if they don't sign up, you don't care. You're still happy to help them, even if they don't buy from you. This builds the moral frame. Again, I go very deep into frames with my coaching clients. But essentially, the two main frames that we want on a sales call are authority frame, which is showing that you are a competent leader in this context, and also the moral frame, that you genuinely have their best interests at heart. If you can build those two frames on your sales calls, you will make a lot of money. Trust me. Like, the moral frame is this person, he's not just out to get a sale. If a prospect senses that you're just here to make some money off them, they will not trust a word that comes out your mouth, which is very, very difficult to close a sale within. So when we build that moral frame, they think, okay, this person actually does care about me. He has my best interests at heart. That skyrockets trust and ultimately skyrockets your chances of closing a sale. When we also frame the call in that way, what this also does is displays high status. Again, status is something that is absolutely monumental in high ticket sales, and I go into this very deeply with my clients. Prospects want to buy from somebody that they feel is high status in this particular context, whatever you're talking about. So when we say, in other words, I don't care if you sign up or not, what that subtly does subconsciously in the prospect's mind, it lets the prospect know that, number one, you are not needy for the sale. What that means is that you must be in high demand. What that must mean is that you have plenty of other people who do want to buy from you. And what is that? That is social proof. Again, my guys that I work with will know that one of the most powerful influences on how humans will evaluate a new decision or new idea is by what other people think of the idea. There are three primary filters that our human brains use to evaluate whether or not we will accept a new idea. One of those ways is what other people think of the idea, social proof. So when you say, in other words, I don't care if you sign up or not, a prospect's brain on the subconscious level thinks that you must not need the sale. And if you don't need the sale, it must be because what you have is in high demand. And what that means is that if you are in high demand by other people, it must be good. That is essentially a simplified version of what happens in the prospect's subconscious brain when we frame the call like this. So ultimately, what this will do is increase the prospect's desire for what you have. Again, massive influencer on human decision making is what other people think of the idea. So these words will display social proof, confidence, non-neediness, and high status, okay? And with that being said, we're going to roll into phase number 2, which is called discovery. You can also call it the questioning phase. Now guys, the discovery phase, you could argue, is the most important phase of a high-ticket sales call. This really is where the sale is made. So the discovery phase lasts around 15 to 30 minutes, give or take, and the key objectives are to understand, number one, nice and simply, if and how you can actually help the prospect, right? We're ethical salespeople. We don't try and sell somebody if we can't actually help them. So we're going to understand if and how we could help. Number two, second objective, we're going to get the prospect to verbally tell us their current situation and their desired situation, which is the gap. Remember earlier on in the video, as we covered the fundamentals, we went through that image, that diagram that had Stickman on the left-hand side, and then on the right-hand side, a bridge in between. That is a visual representation of the gap, okay? Current situation, desired situation. Very, very important in high-ticket sales. Now, third objective is to nudge the prospect deeper into a state of high pain, high desire. So again, remember the inspiration-desperation matrix from earlier on in the video in the fundamentals. We're going to nudge them further along that matrix. Again, very, very important. And then what we're also going to do is eliminate objections before the close. So you can probably see by now like how the sale is made in this phase. This is where we really build more pain. This is where we build more desire. This is where we eliminate objections. Very, very important phase of the call, okay? So, what's also worth noting, that last point there, eliminate objections before the close. How do you actually do that? Well, or how does that work? It's because humans have what we call an identity bias, meaning that one of the biggest drivers of human behavior is to appear consistent with our identity that we portray. So when we ask certain questions as the closers, we eliminate possible objections that could come up at the end. So let me give you a practical example so you can understand. A question that we can often ask is something along the lines of, so what do you feel is stopping you from achieving this on your own? And then the prospect naturally, when you ask that, will start justifying why he can't do this on his own. So he'll be like, well, it's because of X, Y, Z. I don't work well without accountability. I don't know what to do, etc. So then what does that do? It to some extent can completely eradicate the objection of, I'm going to try and do this by myself. Because you know, the prospect has verbally out loud said, I can't do this by myself. So therefore, there's a part of his brain that doesn't want to contradict himself, doesn't want to appear inconsistent with his identity. So when we get to the end of the call, it's going to be very difficult for that prospect to say, I'm going to go do this by myself. Because earlier on in the call, he said that he couldn't, right? And even if they do, then you've got a little bit of ammo, so to speak, to say, well, hang earlier on in the call, you said X, Y, Z, and you couldn't do it by yourself, okay? So that's how it works, guys. We ask certain questions in discovery that essentially eliminate objections because they create an identity bias, okay? Now, the discovery phase has 6 micro phases within it. So you've got the macro 5 phases of a high-ticket sales call, and each phase has these little micro phases within them. Micro phase number 1 is where we're going to establish the problem, and this is maybe the most important part of the discovery phase. Here you're going to establish what the problem is. Like, what is that thing that's causing them pain? What's causing them to be in that desperation state? Remember the inspiration-desperation matrix, okay? Or like, what's stopping them from getting to their desired outcome, from their inspired vision? Remember, what does a masterful salesperson do? They nudge the prospect along the matrix further into a high pain, high desire state. And they do this via skilled questioning in the discovery phase. So a little tip here is that wherever possible, when a prospect is explaining their pain, even if it's just a little breadcrumb of pain, we're going to use what we call amplifying. I've got another video on this on my YouTube channel, so go and check that out, okay? But we're going to do what's called amplifying. By the way, that video is called 3 Dark Sales Tactics. So if you're I go very deep in that video into this particular concept, amplifying. But what amplifying basically does is it nudges the prospect further along the matrix, which is massively important. An example would be, okay, Jeffrey, so tell me, like, what motivated you to book in this call today? Some prospects are going to start rambling on about the whole life story. Other people, you have to do a little bit more digging. But let's say that, like, you know, he tells me a little bit, okay, is there any specific problems or challenges you're hoping that we can actually solve for you? The prospect will go ahead and explain their pain, and then we're going to amplify. Interesting. How long would you say that's been a problem for? Then they'll say, that's called stretching the pain. And then we're going to ask, okay, is that having an effect on you though, like personally? And then we're just going to go as deep into their pain and problem as possible. Again, I'm not going to stick on this too long because I've got a whole video on this particular concept, amplifying. But the formula basically is, prospect gives you pain, you then ask how long, then you amplify by asking an impact question. That's the formula. Again, go and watch that video, 3 Dark Sales Tactics, for a little bit more on this because it's really, really important. So, microphase number 2. So now that we've established the problem, we do this by nice and simply, top of the call, we've been through rapport, we've framed the call, then we ask, okay, so what brought you to the call, essentially? What made you want to book in and speak with us? And they're going to, in most cases, just outright say what their pain is and what's stopping them from getting to that goal. In other words, what the problem is. Now, in microphase 2, current situation, in this phase, we just simply want to understand their current situation, like where they're at now, okay, so that we can identify how we can actually help them. So the questions here are obviously going to be dependent on the context and what it is that you sell. If you're selling something which is like, maybe an educational program, some coaching, where it's like a I'll help you make more money type of offer, standard current situation questions here will be like, how much money are you currently making per month? How many clients do you currently have? What are you currently doing to generate leads? What's your current conversion rate, etc. Another example, maybe it's more like a fitness health type offer. How much do you currently weigh? How many calories are you currently eating per day? How many times do you currently exercise per week? You guys, are hopefully getting the idea, right? Current situation. Then in microphase number 3, we're going to move on to desired situation. Do you remember how I said about the gap and how important that is? So we've just been through current situation. Now we're going to verbally paint the picture of desired situation. That's going to create the gap, okay? So in this phase, we want to understand and truly know at a deep level what the prospect actually wants. You want to get them to go into as much detail as possible and with as much emotion as possible. Clearly define what they actually want to achieve and what the benefits of achieving it are. Now, a very key point here is that you always want to get a numerical value to what they want. So, for example, if it's a make money type of offer, how much money do they want to make? For example, 10K a month. Maybe it's a health and fitness type offer. How much would they like to weigh? 180 pounds or whatever it is. And we do this so that later on, especially in our pitch, we can anchor this numerical figure and tie it back to the result that they want. And this is called looping back. We're going to go into a lot more detail on this in just a second as we get to the pitch phase. Now remember guys, your job is to bridge the gap from where they are now to where they want to be. Bridge the gap in their mind. And your job also is to nudge the prospect further into a high pain, high desire state. And we're going to nudge them further into a high desire state through what we're going to do in this particular microphase. Now a second key point is that you want to first off get the numerical value of what they want. So as you enter desired situation, you're going to verbally get them saying out loud how much money they want to make, how much they want to weigh, numerical value. And then what you want to do is you want to find out the emotional reasons behind why they actually want that goal. Very, very important. Remember, our goal is to nudge them further into a high desire state. When they verbally out loud tell you the emotional benefits of achieving the goal, it just nudges them so much further into a high desire state. So to give you an example, guys, like nobody wants to just have 10K a month. Like that, no, none of us. Like we all want to make money, but there's always a reason why we want to make that money. Nobody wants to just have 10% body fat. There's a reason, there's a secondary emotional reason why we want these things. We want these things because of the emotional benefits, the way that these things will make us feel, okay? So the number is just the surface layer. Think about like the tip of an iceberg. The number is just that tip of the iceberg. And then underneath it is all these emotional benefits and reasons why they want the goal. So, and then a layer deeper than the actual number, like I said, is the emotional reasons behind why they want it. And it is crucial that you find out what these emotional reasons are, that you get the prospect to verbally out loud tell you what these reasons are. And then just like in microphase 1, where we used amplifying questions to nudge the prospect further into a high pain state, we're going to also do this in desired state. We're going to use amplifying questions to nudge them further into a high desire state. Remember, a masterful salesperson nudges the prospect further into a high pain, high desire state. Remember that diagram, the inspiration-desperation matrix? A masterful salesperson nudges them with their questions further along the matrix. So this is the exact formula in desired situation. You first off get numerical value, then you get the emotional reasons, and then we amplify. So here's an example questions if you're on like a make money type of offer. So Jeffrey, tell me, what's the actual goal here? Like, let's say that we are 12 months down the road. How much money would you like to be making per month? And that gets us the numerical value. Then after that, so the prospect tells us, then we can go into the emotional reasons, and we can say something like, okay, so the goal is 10K a month, but what's really important for me to know is like, what's your actual motivations behind, wanting to do all of this and even wanting to get to 10K a month? Prospect will tell you, well, it's because of XYZ, emotional reasons. And then we're going to amplify. Okay, makes sense. So what about like from a lifestyle perspective? Like by achieving 10K a month, you have that freedom. How does that affect your life personally? So that's kind of like what's called a future pace and an amplify. I'm going to make a whole other video specifically on the discovery phase because I could go so deep into desired situation alone. These are just some example questions so that you guys get the idea. But there's also other ways that we can ask these questions that get the responses that we want, okay? I've also got some examples here for a weight loss type offer, but I won't go through those right now. You guys get the idea. Numerical value, emotional reasons, future pace / amplify. Then in microphase number 4, we're going to go through what's called gap recognition and consequence. Guys, this is so important. Remember, our job is to bridge the gap between where they are now and where they want to be. So at this simple stage, what we're looking to do is further solidify in the prospect's mind and verbally out loud that number 1, there is a gap. Number 2, they haven't been able to close this gap by themselves. And number 3, that there is significant negative consequences if they do not bridge this gap. Remember, no gap, no sale. And also remember, we have to burn other possible bridges. We went through this in the fundamentals. We burn other possible bridges, other ways that they could bridge the gap, other ways that they could achieve the desired outcome. We want to get rid of all the other bridges that they could take to get to their desired outcome so that buying from us is the only realistic bridge left. So an example question, first off, gap recognition. We go, okay, Jeffrey, so you're currently at, 5K a month. You want to get to 20K a month. So tell me, what do you actually feel is stopping you from bridging this gap and achieving this on your own? Now, once we've asked this, so at this point, we get them to solidify further that there is a gap, and we get them to verbally out loud admit that there is a gap and that they haven't been able to achieve this on their own. And then this next question is absolutely crucial, really crucial. Remember, we're looking to eliminate possible objections before this close. So by this point in the conversation, the prospects verbally stated their current situation, their desired situation, and the last and very crucial part is to get them to verbally state what the consequences are of them not changing their situation, of them not bridging the gap. Remember, most humans are lazy, right? And that's not a problem. We all are. We're biologically hardwired to conserve energy. So what happens is, if a human being doesn't have any urgency, then in most cases action won't be taken. We have to build urgency through our consequence questions, because without this, what objections will we get? Sounds great, I'll go away and think about it, right? And what's happening there, a prospect might actually remember the 4 fundamental ingredients to close a high ticket sale, for somebody to be a buyer. The raw foundational ingredient is that they have to want a change. But here's the thing, the second ingredient that we need is they have to want to change now. You can get a prospect who genuinely does want to make a change, but if there's not enough urgency, they don't want to change now, and then you get to think about it, okay? Very, very important that we build urgency through our consequence questions. So there's a bunch of ways that you can ask consequence questions. Again, I'm going to make a whole other video on discovery. There's a lot of different ways that you can ask consequence. I've actually got a better way than I wrote down there, but a simple example is that you could say, okay, Jeffrey, so let's say that you didn't take action to solve problem. What do you feel like will actually happen to X in the long term? And then we amplify further. They'll tell us and they would go, got it. What would that mean for you, personally, though, if that were to happen? Again, guys, go and watch that video, 3 Dark Sales Tactics. You'll really get my thesis behind why amplifying is so important and how to do it. Because we amplify in pain, we amplify in desired situation, and we also amplify in consequence as well. Again, for the sake of this video, this is more about giving you a macro overview of the discovery process, but we're going to go into a lot more detail on a lot more videos throughout this channel. I just want to give you guys kind of a high-level overview of how this works. Now, once we've asked the consequence question, we're then going to move into the 5th and final phase, which is commitment. Okay, so in this short phase, we're going to build on top of the previous consequence question, and we're going to get the prospect to verbally state that they are committed to change. Because remember, the raw foundational ingredient for a high ticket sale to be made is the desire for change. And when we can verbally get the prospect out loud to say that they are committed to changing, that skyrockets our chance of actually closing the sale. Remember, humans naturally don't like making commitments in the form of time or money. And if given the option, most humans will simply put things off into a future date. Okay, and then that future date becomes never, which is why so many people stay stuck in life, because they put it off to the future. Future never ends up happening. It's always now. Anyways, remember, we are trying to eliminate objections before the close. So an example here is when are you looking to fix problems so that you can achieve, stated goal? Okay, why is it important to do this now? I made this document a little while ago. I've got a better way to do that. Again, it's covered in 3 Dark Tactics in that video, and I'm also going to make another updated video on discovery. There's a better way to do this. What you actually do is once you've asked the consequence question, they'll say, well, that would be terrible because of X, Y, Z, and then you say, okay, fair to say that we need to make some small shifts and changes then? They'll say, yeah. And then we get a commitment to change. Then we'll say, okay, but do you actually feel ready? Are you in the right headspace to make a change now? And they're like, yeah, no, I'm ready. And again, that gets that commitment to change and skyrockets our chances of closing the sale. Then in microphase 6 is the transition to the pitch. So at this point in the conversation, all your questions are done. You know, the prospect has clearly defined, they have verbally stated their current situation and their desired situation. And then through the use of your masterful, skilled questions, you've nudged the prospect further along the inspiration-desperation matrix. In other words, you have nudged them further into a high-pain, high-desire state. We've also, by asking certain questions, we've played on the identity bias and we've eliminated possible objections. We've also burned other bridges, other ways that they could take to get to their goal. Good job on that. Now, all that's left of this questioning phase is to transition to the pitch. So what you want to do here is, nice and simply, you're going to first off, thank the prospect for answering your questions with good tonality. Don't be submissive, thank you so much. Don't do that, but just, be polite, but also authoritative. Give your brief thoughts on the prospect situation. You don't want to ramble on, but, just a brief thought. And then, we're going to essentially let them know that we're about to show them exactly how they're going to get from current situation to desired situation, how we're going to bridge that gap. So some key points here is that it is extremely important here to sound excited, enthusiastic, and confident. This cannot be stated enough. Prospects, generally speaking, do not buy when they are in an uncertain, lethargic state, right? Prospects spend thousands of dollars when they are in a positive, hopeful, certain, energetic state. An energetic transfer, guys, is real. How do we get prospects to be in the energetic state that is most conducive to them buying from us? How do we get them in a positive, certain, hopeful state? It's by being in that state ourselves, because energetic transfer is real. Your energetic state, your energy will rub off onto the prospect, which is why in this particular phase, as we start going to the pitch, it is so important that you yourself are in an energetic state of confidence, positivity, and enthusiasm, because that will transfer onto the prospect and help you close the sale. By the way, just a little random, a bit of a weird trick, to be honest, that I do, but I do think it helps, is that just before the transition, take a second. Don't be scared of silence. Don't be scared of pauses. Just take a couple of seconds and just in your mind's eye, really visualize you completely changing this person's life, like them buying from you and them getting insane results and getting to their goal. Really just picture that in your mind. It will really help you bring to the surface that confidence, enthusiasm, and positivity, and that will transfer to the prospect. And thirdly, in the transition, as you summarize your conversation and give your brief thoughts, you want to also just refer back to the problem, refer back to the pain of their current situation, their goals, the emotional reasons why they want the goal. What this does is it essentially just lets the prospect know that, hey, I've heard you, I listened, here's a brief summary of our conversation. It also brings all of those, problems, pain, desire, it brings it to the forefront of their conscious mind, which is where we want it to be. And yeah, it lets the prospect know, like, hey, I get you, I've heard you, I've been listening, here we go. It's kind of like holding up a mirror, okay? But remember, we do want to transfer belief, confidence, and enthusiasm to the prospect. So here's an example transition. So, okay, Jeffrey, well, thank you for answering all of my questions here. My little interrogation. Give a little smile there. Now, to give you my brief thoughts, you are absolutely perfect for what we do. Genuinely, so perfect. Like, you mentioned earlier that you've been trying to start an online business for 6 months now. You've been struggling like crazy. It's causing you that frustration. I can see exactly the issue here. I know exactly how to fix this, genuinely. We can get you up to 10K a month. You can finally move out your parents' house and enjoy that freedom that you've wanted. With that being said, are you happy for me to share my screen and show you exactly how we're going to get you to 10K a month and beyond? Boom. Done. Okay? Confidence, belief, and enthusiasm. And with that being said, let's move into the pitch. The pitch, guys, is my personal favorite part of a high ticket sales call. It's a lot of fun. We're really getting the prospect excited about how what we sell is going to get them to the goal that they want. Now, time-wise, the pitch will last around about 5 to 10 minutes. You really don't want your pitch to go any longer than 10 minutes. Now, the ideal in a lot of circumstances, I find, is your pitch being about 6, 7, 8 minutes. But don't take that as a rule, because it does depend on what you're selling, the price point, how complex it is, what you're selling. Some offers might require more like a 15-minute pitch, and that's fine. But yeah, generally the sweet spot I find for most companies and offers is around about 6, 7, 8 minutes. And the key objective of the pitch is to build the bridge. Very, very important. Remember the 4 crucial ingredients for somebody to be a buyer. They want to change. Number 1. Number 2, they want to change now. Both of those things we really kind of cross off and build in discovery. But the third ingredient is that they have to trust your system/process. In other words, they have to trust that what you have will get them to where they want to be. And that is what we do in the pitch. We build the bridge in the prospect's mind of how they'll get from where they are now to where they want to be through buying what we sell. Now, the pitch has 3 micro phases. Number 1, the first micro phase, should I say, is to explain the 3 to 5 ways that you are going to get them to their goal. Very, very important that we have a numbered based process. I have another video on my channel which is purely dedicated towards pitch. Go check that out if you want to pitch in a bit more detail, because again, this video here today is a bit more of a kind of macro high level overview. But I explain in that video that in your pitch, you want to use a numerical based process. So for example, 3 steps, 3 pillars. The reason why is that human beings find it easier to process information if it's laid out in a numerical based format. Why are so many YouTube titles titled, top 5 best ways to do X, top 2 ways to get rich? It's often numerical based. And the reason why is because, again, human beings find it easier to understand information that is laid out in a numerical process. And we want prospects to understand what it is that we actually do. Confused prospects do not buy. So always make sure that your pitch is laid out in like 3 steps, 5 pillars, etc. Something that they can follow along numerically. So we're going to explain those 3 to 5 ways in the first phase of the pitch. We're then going to display and sprinkle in a little bit of social proof. Then we're going to answer any questions that they've got. Remember, we are building the bridge. So a couple of key points here, guys. Your pitch should focus on the 3 to 5 main ways that you're going to get them from their current situation to desired situation. And at the end of every kind of step or every pillar, we always want to do what we call looping back, where we are going to relay everything that the prospect has just said back to their goal. Because we're going to be throwing a lot of logical information at the prospect, and after going through that logical information, we then just want to bring it back to the emotional reasons. Remember that classic line: people buy out of emotion, then justify with logic. So we don't want the prospect in logical thinking. We want the prospect in emotional, positive feelings, in that energetic state. So when we go through the logical information, we just tie it back to how that relates to their goal and the emotional benefits of achieving that goal. At the end of the pitch, you definitely want to sprinkle in some social proof. Any offer that you're closing on, they'll normally have, or at least hopefully they'll have, good results, positive reviews, etc. You want to sprinkle that in. So let's run through a little bit of a mock. Let's say that it's more like a fitness coaching, health type of offer. Okay. So I've transitioned to the pitch. Okay, so step 1, Jeffrey, we're going to write out a customized exercise plan for blah, blah, blah. We're going to double your fat loss. We're actually going to do it without you having to spend 6 days a week in the gym like you're currently doing, so that you can come into the gym, you know exactly what your exercises are optimal for your body. And we can finally, this is looping back by the way, we can finally get you on track for that 10% body fat so that you can start enjoying that confidence and desire from women that you've been wanting. So, obviously I didn't go through the whole thing. I'm not going to go through it word for word, but I explained the way, and then I looped what I just said. I looped it back to the goal and the emotional benefit of achieving that goal. So that's the first way, Jeffrey, that we're going to get you up to XYZ goal. The second step, we're going to give you XYZ, 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 so that you can loop back to goal, loop back to goal. Okay, does this make sense? Again, there's another video on my channel. It's titled, I closed 4 million in high ticket sales with this pitch. I go deep into pitch, deep into the scripting. This video is more of a macro high level overview, but definitely go check out that video if you want to tighten up pitch. So focus on the 3 to 5 steps, the 3 to 5 ways or pillars you're going to get them to their desired situation. Loop back to their goal at every opportunity. And also, if you can, just sprinkle in their frustrations and pains. So, when you're doing the looping back statement, you can also say, so we can get you to 10% body fat. You can have that desire from women without XYZ problem. Just try and sprinkle in their problem and pain if you can. Now, then what we're going to do, so we've sprinkled in some social proof. Again, I go into this in a lot more detail on my other video specifically on pitching, but basically, we finished our kind of explaining the 3 to 5 ways. We're then going to, not overtly, we're just going to try and sprinkle in some social proof, almost like it just came to us off the top of our head. So we finished our 3 to 5 ways, and oh, by the way, actually, yeah, let me show you this. You remind me of Jamie. Jamie came to us with XYZ problem, exactly the same as you. He followed our process. He got XYZ result. He's doing phenomenal. Just try and sprinkle in some social proof. Bonus points if you can relate a good result from a previous customer that they relate to. So they had the same problem. Hey, this person had the same problem as you. He fixed it through us, and now he's at XYZ goal and emotional benefit of achieving goal. Try and sprinkle it in, try and finesse it, not being too overt. And then what we're going to do after this, so we've explained our 3 to 5 steps. We have sprinkled in some social proof. We're then going to go into a bit of a micro phase of question and answer. So we're going to answer them, ask if they've got any questions. Now, the key here, guys, is you want to be as concise as possible. A trap that a lot of amateur salespeople make is to start waffling on for minutes, like every time a prospect asks them a question. This ultimately, it lowers your status and it confuses prospects if you overload them with information. We do not want confused prospects. Confused prospects do not buy. You want to answer the prospect's questions very clearly, but also do it in a way that uses as little words as possible. Ideally, like use as many words as are required and no more. Right? So it doesn't mean that somebody's going to ask you a question, you just give like a one-word answer. No, it doesn't mean that. Still, you do want to explain and answer their question to clear up in their mind what they've asking you, but just be mindful, do it in as little words as possible and explain it as simply as possible. We do not want confused prospects. So just to very quickly recap, guys, on pitch, we first off, at the end of discovery, we transition to our pitch. We then explain the 3 to 5 steps or pillars to get them to the goal. We made sure that we looped back at the end of every step. We then sprinkled in a little bit of social proof. We asked them if they had any questions, and we answered any questions that they did have, and now it's time to move on to the close. So, phase number 4 of a high-ticket sales call, the close. The job by this point is nearly done. So, hopefully by this point, the prospect has clearly defined in discovery their current and desired situation. We've built the gap. They verbally stated the consequence of not achieving the desired situation, of not bridging the gap. And then through your pitch, you've also demonstrated exactly how you're going to get them there. And you've answered any questions that they have. Now all that's left is to close the deal. This is what you are paid the big bucks for, to close the deal. So ultimately, guys, in discovery, we got the prospect into a heightened state of desire for change. Heightened state of desire for change now. Those are the 2 ingredients we crossed off in discovery. In our pitch, we got the prospect to trust that our system/process will get them the result that they want. Now we're going to try and close the deal. Now, a very important point here, guys, is that once, the prospect has asked any questions that they have at the end of the pitch, it's time to let them know the price. And you want to let them know the price as clearly and concisely with as little words as possible. Why? Because again, confused prospects do not buy. Confused minds create objections. When we're dropping the price, we don't want to go on some elaborate 2-minute rant. Like, we just want to be like, boom, here it is. Okay. It will increase our chances of a sale. So we're going to keep things nice and simple. No like 8 different options that they can choose from, right? I always favor or just have one option. Have one option that you're selling. 2 options maximum. Because what will happen is if we give them hey, we've got this option here and then this option here, 4 different options you can choose from, you end up getting a think about it objection because the prospect genuinely they do need to think about it. Like they're sat on a call with you, there's a little bit of time pressure, they're like, no, let me think about it. Because they actually do want to think about it. So no multiple different options, ideally just one option that they can buy from, that they can choose. So no long elaborate speech, just drop the price, then be silent. So key point here, silence after you let them know the price is very, very key. Make it a game, whoever speaks first after the price loses, right? We are silent after the price for 2 reasons, because the prospect genuinely does need to make a decision. They need to digest, they need to think. And if you're talking at them after you drop the price, then you interrupt their decision-making process, their thought process. And then what does that do? It creates confusion and a think about it objection because they do need to think about it. So just be silent and let them think. And also, as a secondary benefit of being silent, silence creates tension. And most humans do not like tension. So by being silent, you increase the tension and therefore you increase the chances of them just being like in their mind, they're thinking, oh, fuck, no, pressure, oh, it's yeah, okay, fine. Yeah, that tension can actually help you. Think of it like a balloon. The longer that you are silent, the more the balloon fills up with air. And then the moment that you speak, that balloon pops and the tension is gone. Tension is good for us, okay? So be silent. Now, by the way, guys, you don't want to get into some weird, battle with the prospect. Some prospects, if they know about sales, they know about the kind of, be silent after dropping price principle. So they'll try and kind of outgame you. It's very rare, but they'll sometimes deliberately be silent. So, don't make it weird. If you get to about 15 seconds in and the prospect hasn't spoken, just simply ask them, what do you want to do? Something like that. 15 seconds doesn't sound like a lot, but after you've dropped the price and you're silent, like that's a long time for both you and the prospect in your head. So after 15 seconds, be silent. After 15 seconds, if they're still not saying anything, which is a rare situation, by the way, if that happens, then just ask them, hey, what do you want to do? Just ask a closing question, basically. So, second key point, after the price drop, you want to loop back to the goal and the emotional benefits of achieving the goal. Remember, we want to bring to the forefront of their conscious mind up. We're dropping a big number on them, but we also just want to quickly bring to the forefront of their conscious mind what they are getting. They're not just spending $10,000. They are getting a $50K a month income, the emotional benefits of achieving the goal, etc. So we really want to bring that to the forefront of their mind. So an example price drop, nice and simply, is just, okay, Jeffrey, so do you want me to go through the investment number side of things, how that works? Yes, perfect. So obviously, Jeffrey, you mentioned that you want to get up to 20K a month so that you can have that freedom. And the investment to get you there is literally just 5K. Silence. Silence for 15 seconds. If they don't speak, then ask them what they want to do. It's pretty rare. Most prospects will speak after a couple of seconds. Now, by this point, the prospects, in most cases, will do one of three things. They'll either say, yes, let's do it. They might ask you some more questions, or they'll give you an objection. If they say yes, then congratulations, you've closed the deal. So just go through your onboarding process. Every company will teach you what that onboarding process is. You'll take the payment, set up their account, nice and easy. Every company will have their own onboarding process, which they'll teach. If they ask you more questions, which can happen, so you give the price, they're like, okay, what about X, Y, Z? If they do that, answer those questions as concisely as possible and then continue to be silent. Nice and simple. If they really do persist in asking you questions and you're being silent, at some point, we do want to answer their questions, but there comes a point where you've got to draw a boundary, draw a line, and just say, like, you've got to ask for the sale, basically. So after a certain amount of questions, like, hey, what do you want to do? Can we get you up to 10K a month? Can we get you up to goal? Whatever. If they give you an objection, it's time to move on to the next phase, which is objection handling. Now, this final phase of a sales call is to handle any objections that the prospect has. By the way, guys, it's very important to define what an objection is. An objection can be defined as anything that prevents them moving forward right there and then on the call. So I've heard some people say in the past, like closers will be like, oh, no, they're going to pay tomorrow. They just need to, move a few things around in the bank. They didn't give me any objections. No, that is an objection. Anything that stops somebody from moving forward on the call with you right then and there is an objection. Now, there are three and only three types of objections that you can get. And what the prospect says will manifest in different ways. It can often be think about it, partner, time, money, fear. But ultimately, all root causes of all objections can be categorized into one of the three below buckets: uncertainty, money, and fear. Okay? Uncertainty that you or your method can actually get them to their desired situation and goal. So remember, the third ingredient for somebody to be a buyer is they have to trust your system/process. And if they are uncertain about, remember, people at the raw foundational level are buying change. If they don't believe that what you have will get them the change that they want, that's uncertainty, and that will cause an objection. It can also be money, so not having the necessary money to they physically can't pay. Like, if what you're selling costs 5K and they've got like 2K to their name with bad credit, that's obviously going to be an objection. Now, there's a difference, though, between not having the money and not having the willingness to depart with the financial resources that they do have. Those are two very different things. Not having the money and not being willing to spend it are two very different things. And I have a process for how you figure that out, basically, which one it is. Then the third and final one is fear. So fear around paying you the money and buying your product or service. Now, the thing is, guys, we're already however long, an hour or so into this video, and objections really needs a series by itself, which is coming. This, I really want to give objections the time it deserves, because I already have, for my coaching clients, I have like 4+ hours of content on objections alone. And for you guys on YouTube, I really want to make sure that I give objections their justice and make an entire, 2-part series, which will probably end up being like 2 hours. So subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because we're going to be covering objections in detail. So watch out for that. And with that being said, let's dive into now how to actually get a role. By this point, you know what high ticket sales is. You know the fundamental principles, the deep psychology behind why somebody buys. Through this video, you've got an idea of how to actually conduct a call, the kind of macro high level overview. And now let's go ahead and actually get you a role and get you earning the money that you. The Elite Roll Formula, a step-by-step guide to landing 20 to 30k a month high-ticket sales roles on command. And what I first off want to let you guys know is that this goes beyond just landing offers and making a lot of money. If you watch this video until the end, if you execute on the process, you will possess one of the most highest value skills that you can have as a man. Yes, using this process, you will be able to land great offers such as I did with Charlie Morgan. I've also worked on Brooke Hiddink's offer, very well respected offer, as well as 2 other elite level offers. But truly, if you understand, digest, and execute on this process, like me, one day, you'll be sat at home, the next day you're sending voice notes back and forth with Tristan Tate. One day you're sat at your home in London, the next day you're chilling in Amsterdam with Hamza. One day you wake up with a phone notification, you've been invited for a gym session with Chris Eubank Jr. and Dizzy Rascal. Again, very famous guys, especially in the UK. Because the fact is, being able to garner attention from and attain the desired action from whoever on the planet that you want, this is one of the most highest value skills on the planet, and I'm about to give you a process for it step by step. First off though, we do need to have just a very quick couple of belief shifts. Belief shifts number 1 is opportunity vehicle. That when it comes to making the money that you want to make in the high ticket sales space, I'm talking, the big numbers, it's not just about your sales skill. Of course, that is massively important. But what's also very important and is often disregarded is the skill of landing great offers, because it's also important the opportunity vehicle that you're in, the offer that you're in. So while a lot of sales trainers want to focus solely on getting better at sales, which again, absolutely important, they disregard the skill of landing top-level great offers. Because the fact is, no matter what the sales managers want to say that there's no such thing as bad leads, the raw truth is that not all offers are made equal. Like, there are some offers out there that are just so good, so easy to close that truthfully, you'd have to be terrible to not be at least 10 to 15k a month. But inversely, there are other offers out there that are just so bad, so terrible that no matter how good you are, it's going to be very difficult to scale past even 10k a month. The second belief shift that we need to have is the skill of landing great offers, because this is a skill. This is a skill that you can get better at with practice and a proven process. It's not luck. It's a skill that once you master will lead to you elevating your income to entirely new heights. You'll be able to command and land top level offers at will. In your life, you will have less stress, more certainty, more confidence. You'll have more long-term leverage, and you'll be able to close more on whatever offer you're currently on, because you'll have this abundance mindset, knowing that you can have a top-level elite offer whenever you want, within a matter of a week. And by the way, guys, we're going to go very deep in this document. There's going to be copies, scripts, and prompts I'm going to give you. So if you do want the full document sent to you, just DM me on X, or in other words, Twitter. DM me the word roll. My username is Scott Parsons Biz. Or for those of you that do potentially want to work a little bit closer with me, there's a link in the description to find out more details on that. Now, key belief shift number 3 is that you have to be marketable. Really, guys, in the same way that a company just has to market their product or service, no matter how good their product is, by the way, they have to market it. What we are doing is essentially no different. In fact, the only difference is that in this context, you are the product. So you really have to begin thinking of yourself as a product that you need to market. And with that comes thinking about deep human psychology, first principles. Why would somebody pay attention to you? Why would somebody take the action that you want them to take? And there's going to be a lot more info on that as we go along. So here we go. This is the Elite Roll Formula. Now, in the Elite Roll Formula, there are 3 primary ways that we can land top-level A+ offers on command. Now, we're going to be going through one of them. I personally, guys, as a side note, I would not mind at all just giving away all the value for free. But what I do also have to be mindful of is that there are other guys who pay me, right? They pay me for my coaching, the mentorship, the systems, the processes. So I also want to be respectful of them and not just give away absolutely everything, for free out to the world, something that they've paid me for, if that makes sense. But we're going to be going through one of the ways right now. This is the outbound method. And guys, again, a very quick disclaimer. Sometimes I feel like when we hear the word outbound, we think of some shitty cold email. It's not that. It's a very in-depth process. We leverage a lot of deep psychology, especially the copy and the scripts that I give you. So don't worry, it's not just, I'm not going to basically just say send a shitty cold email, okay? And this has also come from my own original thought, right? This is not something I've copied off of YouTube. This is based on years of trial, of data, feedback. This process really does work, guys. It works insanely well, in fact. You guys who learn and execute on this process, frankly, are never going to have to worry about money again, because you're going to be able to land elite level roles, very easy to sell offers within a matter of weeks, probably 1 week, to be honest, okay? So let's dive in. The first step is a pretty simple one, and this is gathering your target list. So first off, we're going to create a list of about 10 to 50 targets. Now remember guys, the whole purpose of this process is not to land some mediocre role. Okay, we want to land elite level roles with an absolutely solid offer where it's frankly easy to make 10 to 30k a month. And again, these kind of offers absolutely exist. Offers that sell themselves. Again, not all offers are made equal. So what I'm trying to say, guys, is really remove any limitations that you might have in your mind. This process absolutely works. This exact process that we're going through now is how I landed a role with Charlie Morgan, who has a very, very well-respected offer. So, you know, just let your mind be free and choose targets that are only your dream offers. What I'm trying to say is, like, don't think, if you've got somebody in mind, somebody that you'd love to close or set for, don't think to yourself, I would like to work with them, but that's just not realistic. No, it is. With this process, it absolutely is. So just, you know, let your mind be free, only target your absolute dream offers. And as another side note, as you create your target list, also bear in mind that certain companies carry a certain weight to them. And what I mean by that is some companies, there's a certain amount of authority that if you worked there and, you know, you pulled in some decent numbers, it would become a lot easier to land elite roles moving forward. So for example, again, I use this exact process we're about to go through to get on Charlie Morgan's team. And Charlie is a very well-respected founder, especially in the high-ticket coaching and info space. So when I went and closed for him and obviously hit some big numbers, that made it very easy going forward to get any roles that I wanted. In fact, then it actually makes it a lot easier for people to come to you rather than you reaching out to them. You'll start to get inbound inquiries, people wanting to essentially poach you, basically. It gives you big leverage. So yeah, really just like look beyond the curve and think about like what companies would carry a real certain level of authority, you know, if I hit some good numbers there. Now, in terms of gathering your target list, there's two different ways that we can do it. There's automated and manual. I recommend the automated way because, I mean, why not? It saves a lot of time. So for the automated process, we're going to use an AI platform called Manus, which essentially has the ability to execute tasks autonomously, obviously after prompting it. There's a link to a Manus free trial on the document, or if you just go onto Google, type in Manus, it will come up. You only need the free trial version. That'll be absolutely fine for what we need. And then if you've got the document, which again, if you want the document, just DM me on Twitter. This is the document here. This is the prompt here. You can personalize it to yourself. So for example, if you specifically want to work in info, or if you specifically want to work for an agency, again, you can just tailor the prompt to suit your own needs, basically. But yeah, just copy and paste that prompt, put it into Manus, and it's very quickly going to give you a spreadsheet of all your target lists, and we'll be good to go. Now, if for whatever reason you do prefer a more manual kind of sniper approach, that's fair enough. You can use this process. I've put together a template that you can use here to essentially input your data into. It's pretty simple stuff. I'm going to brush over this, but you obviously want to use the right hunting grounds, you know, places like Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube to kind of gather your target list. Once you've done that, you want to source the data and input it into the spreadsheet that I've given you, or create your own one. Now, here's the thing. Finding, for example, the data of company name, founder's name, social media profile links, that stuff's obviously easy and readily available. We are going to need emails, and for that, it's not difficult, but we are going to have to go another step, right? So here's what I do. Any company that I ever want to reach out to, what I normally do is I'll just Google the founder's name, then company name, then type email next to it, right? So for example, Charlie Morgan, I'll put Charlie Morgan, Imperium Acquisition, email, right? Nice and simple. When you do that, what's going to happen is there's going to come up a list on Google of these email verifying tools, such as Contact Out, such as Rocket Reach. I've always used Rocket Reach. It's very good, very reliable. It's always given me the right email. And as a side note, a little trick that I've used many times actually, it's so stupid and yet so effective, is what you can essentially do is just literally type in the direct on the email. You can do firstname@companyname.com, and literally like 70% plus of the time, that's their email. Think about like some of the most highest profile entrepreneurs or even celebrities. You can literally email them just by doing this. It's crazy. So for example, if the person you want to reach out to, if their first name's Joe and their company name is Growth Fuel, you would literally just type in joe@growthfuel.com into the email address bar, and I can like 70% plus of the time, that's their email. It's crazy. I recently booked a meeting with the founder of like the #1 AI info company on the planet right now. I wasn't even looking for a role. It's just that when you have the ability to book meetings with whoever you want, you kind of just want to create side quests. And I literally did it just through doing that. Again, firstname@companyname.com. It's so stupid. It's so stupid how effective it is, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Now, step number 2, now that we've got your target list, the next thing that you're going to do is create your marketing material. This is where it gets very, very key. Remember, our entire goal at the raw base level is to, number 1, garner attention. So to have our message opened and read by the hiring decision maker. By the way, guys, I don't often recommend targeting the sales manager. We are going to go straight for the founder, because what will happen is the founder will be very impressed by your email, especially if you use the copy and scripts that I give you. And then they'll pass it on to the hiring decision maker, which might be the sales manager. But ultimately, yeah, our goal at a raw base level is to, number 1, garner attention, and then number 2, to get the action that we want, which in this context is a reply which leads to an interview, okay? So action number 1, we're going to map out your big claim, okay? So think about your big claim. This is the reason why they should open your video pitch, and there'll be more on this in just a second. The reason why they should move forward and take the action that you want them to, which again is replying to the email and booking in an interview. Now for this, guys, we have to use first principles of human psychology, and we have to appeal to their self-interest. Very, very key. I've seen some closers and setters out there. They'll reach out to like a founder or a sales manager and they'll say, hey, I'd love to close for you. But this breaks a very fundamental rule of human psychology, that it doesn't appeal to their self-interest. Okay, you would love to close for this company, but why should they care? You know, we have to appeal to their self-interest, guys. Very key. So put yourself in the shoes of like a, for example, a coaching and info founder. They're doing, millions in profit per year. What do they want? Like, keep it simple. They want more business growth and they want less stress and less headache. And what do you need for that? You need top tier talent on your team, especially sales talent. You don't just need some random normie, like you need not some NPC, you need A player talent. And all high level operators, high level founders, they know this. They know that one of the most important things to have in their business to scale and get to the vision and goals that they want is having great people within their company, great people working for them. So what that means is that they are constantly on the lookout for top tier talent. Even if they're not actively hiring, I promise you, I know this from experience, these founders, they will make a position available for the right person. They are always on the lookout for great cash collecting, revenue producing setters and closers to join their team. And so that is going to be our big claim. Now, here's the thing. Remember, our first goal is to garner attention. That is at the raw base level. Without that, nothing else matters. So therefore, we can't approach them just with some, run-of-the-mill claim like, oh, I'll be a great closer for your company. Like, no, we need something that excites them and again, and appeals to their self-interest. Something that garners their attention and makes them think, who the fuck is this guy? Is he one of those like young prodigies? And then what happens is when you can get that thought in their mind, they quietly think to themselves, okay, well, if he is one of these young prodigies, I cannot afford to not at least have a conversation. So let's bring them in. Guys, this is exactly the thought process that we want. And this is exactly the thought process that happens if you complete all the steps right. And you use my copy, my scripts, etc. Okay. So therefore, the big claim that I recommend, and the one that I've always used, is I will be the most pivotal, influential, and successful sales hire that you ever made. You can insert setter or closer there. Now, as a disclaimer, some of you guys could hear that and think, but hang on, wait a sec. Like, am I going to be able to fulfill that promise? Like, will I actually be able to perform at that level? And the answer, guys, it goes very deep, but the answer is yes. If you can make yourself believe it. Guys, I promise you, every single killer closer or killer setter out there at one point had this delusional level of self-belief, even when they didn't have a track record and even when they didn't have any actual evidence. Everything starts in the mind. And if you lack the confidence and belief that you can come into absolutely any company and make a big splash, really solidify yourself as an A player, it's because you either lack the right character traits and or the right skill sets. And in this situation, if that is you, trust me, I can help you. All you need to do is click the link in the description, watch that video, and then if it's of interest to you, book a call with me and we'll take it from there. But I can guarantee you guys, if you do that, your life will change. All of my guys that I'm working with, I know for a fact their lives are about to change. You'll get trained up at the most elite level and get placed into an elite offer, and that is where you hit the big numbers. You will become an elite level operator that has the right character traits, skill sets, systems, processes, and then you really can fulfill our big claim that you really will be the most pivotal, influential, and successful sales hire that they made, okay? So let's go. Moving on. Action number 1. We are now going to create your slides. Okay, we're going to be creating a short slide presentation, which we will present in your video pitch, which is the next step. Now, here's the thing, guys. Don't worry, this is not time consuming because with AI now, we can literally create this in minutes, like a solid presentation. We can create it in literally, under 2 minutes, and it's going to boost conversions massively. Now, what's very interesting, guys, is that, remember, in an absolute sea of like mediocre outreach for setting and closing roles, I've seen it. I've been on the other side of outreach of people looking to get setting and closing roles. Most people just do an absolutely terrible message. At best, they send some selfie iPhone video. And guys, one of the easiest levers that we can pull in life to beat our competition is just simply to visibly show a little bit more effort than everybody else. Even though low-key it only takes a few minutes to make a presentation. So by making a video pitch that has a presentation in the background, we are going to stand out. They're going to see that you're putting in more effort than everybody else. It boosts conversions at such a high level. It's crazy, right? Anyways, moving on. So the steps to create the slides. What you do is you go to gamma.app and create an account. You won't have to pay for it. You get a certain amount of credits, and for what we need, the free version more than covers it. You're then going to take my script and the prompt, which is on this document here. There's a link to that document. Again, if you need the document, just DM me on Twitter, the word roll. I'll send it to you. My username is Scott Parsons Biz. Or if you do just already, have some level of interest in working together closer, there's a link in the description. You can click that, watch the video, potentially schedule a call with me. So by now, guys, so you've put that prompt into Gamma. We've now got your slide presentation, and now we're going to create your video pitch. So just to very quickly recap, by now we've gathered your target list of all your dream offers that you'd love to work on. We've mapped out your big claim. You've got your slide presentation made, and now we're going to create your video pitch. Okay. So what's going to happen is pretty much any messaging that we send out is all the centralized point is going to be the link to your video pitch. Okay. So step number 1, nice and simple, just open up Loom. If you don't have an account, create an account, and then the script that I've given you, paste that script into the notes section on Loom. So when you go to Loom and you click record video, you'll get these options here. Where it says notes, just click that and paste the script that I give you. The script, by the way, as you'll see from the notes on the script document, you do want to amend it to suit your own, to individualize it to you, basically. But yeah, try and stick to that script as closely as possible without literally copying it word for word. Now, guys, a quick note on energy and communication. Remember, we are making our big claim throughout all of our messaging, including the main copy of the message we're going to send, including the video pitch itself. So therefore, remember, by the way, as well, that we are appealing to the founders' self-interest. And what do the founders want? They want somebody who they believe can close deals and collect cash, period. That's it. And, bonus points if that person is easy to get along with, who's positive, who adds to the team culture and, isn't a nightmare to work with. But ultimately, they're looking for somebody that can close deals and collect cash. That is what they want. So think about this, guys. It is imperative, therefore, that in your video pitch, you come across as professional, confident, positive, and an absolutely great communicator with absolute conviction and almost a level of delusional self-belief, that you truly do believe your big claim, that you would be the most pivotal, influential, successful sales hire that they ever made, okay? And it cannot be stated enough that if you don't have experience, that's actually fine, okay? But where you lack in skill and experience, you have to make up for that lack of experience with enthusiasm, confidence, authority, and work ethic. In other words, you could also sum it up as aura. You almost want to absolutely brainwash yourself and be at the point of near delusion about just how much cash you will make that company and how you will be the best hire that they ever made. And again, if you are working closely with me, I can help you with all of that. You will come into an offer knowing that you're going to be an A player, knowing that you're going to be one of, if not the top players on that team. And again, the link is in the description if you do want to check out working with me a little bit closer. Now, here's the thing as well. I've mentioned a couple of times now about almost this level of delusional self-belief. But the thing is, you want to be mindful. Delusional self-belief without arrogance. It's very, very key, because arrogance is very off-putting to founders, but really just to human beings in general. So somebody should watch that video and just, again, have that lingering thought that you have the potential to be an absolute prodigy, okay? But also that you'd be a good addition to the team culture. So if you come across as some arrogant guy, they could be thinking to themselves, okay, this guy can collect cash, but I don't really like his vibe, and it's just not going to be good for conversion. So self-belief without arrogance is very, very key. And I've put some notes on the script documents, kind of going into a little bit more detail on that. Now, step 4 has 2 parts to it. So step 4A is we are going to craft the email, messaging, and copy. So to very quickly recap, by now we have our target list, we have our big claim, we've got our slide presentation ready, and we have our video pitch ready. So now we're going to draft the copy for the email and messaging. So this is the actual initial messaging that the target will see before they click the link and go and watch your video pitch. Now this is extremely imperative, the copy and messaging, because remember, our entire goal of this process is to get them to watch our video pitch, and then from the video pitch to get them to take the action that we want, which is a reply leading to an interview, okay? So if we reverse engineer the sequence of events that happens that leads up to you having an interview, what is it? First off, the target sees the email and the message preview. So should I say, in email, they'll see the subject line. In the social media, they'll see, there's like that little preview, they'll see that. So they see the subject line, they'll open it, they read the first couple of lines, because by the way, that is how elite operators operate, essentially. They don't read the whole thing, they don't skim the whole thing. They essentially read the first couple of lines and then in their mind decide if they want to carry on going and reading further, essentially, okay? So they'll read the first couple of lines, they'll decide whether it's worth carrying on. They'll click the link and watch your video pitch. They'll like it. They'll be intrigued. They'll reply back. And after maybe 1 or 2 back and forths, you'll have a day and a time locked in for an interview. So basically, guys, what I'm trying to say here is that if we look at the raw foundation of success here, it's getting the target to pay attention to our message subject line or DM preview, to open it, to read the first few lines, and then so essentially the subject line or the message preview can literally make or break this entire process. And luckily for you guys, I already have proven subject lines and message previews that work, okay? Along with main message copy. You can access all of that copy, which again is proven. I know it works, it converts insanely high, and I've given you all of the subject lines, messaging copy, etc. in that document there. Again, just DM me on Twitter if you want this document. You'll get the links to the copy and all of that good stuff. Now, step 4B, we're going to draft some follow-up messages. Okay, so we're going to be creating an automated series of 4 follow-up messages to our targets. Now, you could be sat there thinking, well, why only 4? Like, don't we want to stay on top of them? Don't we want like 5, 10? And truthfully, guys, no, because we won't need it. Like, in my honest experience from myself and the guys that I work with, once you send the first batch of outreach messages, like, you'll have multiple interviews lined up within less than a week, literally. And then if you follow my interview process, you're also going to have like multiple offers lined up within, again, less than 7 days, most likely. Offers so good, by the way, that again, you have to be terrible to not make at least 10 to 15K a month. So what I'm trying to say, guys, is that there's no real need to make any more than 4 follow-up messages because we're not going to need it. But with that being said, it is always good to have some follow-ups ready, in the arsenal, in the rare case that, that you do need them, okay? But we don't need to overcomplicate this. The messaging for our follow-ups in this context, follow-ups are simply tools to get the people who haven't yet watched our video pitch to watch it. Remember what I said earlier? All of our messaging is going to be funneled to the centralized point of your video pitch. And again, if you go through my documents that I give you regarding video pitch, you're going to smash the pitch, okay? So for that reason, our follow-up messages are going to be very short, very concise. We're going to nudge them on the previous message while directing them to the video pitch. And again, I've put you a document with all the copy that you need for follow-ups there. Step number 5 is sending. So now we've got everything ready. It's time to get sending. And it is very, very important, guys, that we use a multi-channel approach, okay? Because I can say this from experience, from myself and the guys that I work with, that when you message the same company and founder on at least 2 channels, for example, email and LinkedIn, or for example, email and Instagram, or email, LinkedIn and Instagram, I promise you, layering on top these multiple channels, it will skyrocket your conversion rates. Conversion, by the way, I mean from initial outreach to actually getting an interview booked and a role offered to you. Remember, we want this founder to be thinking, who the fuck is this guy? He is everywhere. He's in all of my inboxes. He seems like he really has the desire and ambition to work with us, and I like that. What if he's one of those young cash collecting prodigies? Trust me, by executing this process, by following the instructions closely, by using the instructions in the video pitch document, by using my copy and scripts, really making sure your pitch is dialed in, that is exactly what the founder's going to be thinking. And then we're going to be using an automated approach as well, which extra impresses them, and you're everywhere in all of their inboxes essentially. Now, in terms of sending, there's two different ways we can go about it. We've got automated and manual. I'm not going to write out instructions for manual because it's obvious and simple, right? Just write all your copy into a Google Doc, paste it into individual emails, adjust the name for each email and then hit send, right? I'm not going to go, crazy into that. My recommendation is do my automated process for email, which we're about to go through, and then manually send the social media DMs, which, by the way, manually sending like 5-10 DMs a day, just literally copy and pasting a message and amending the name, like it is literally, it takes like 20 minutes max, if that, probably. So if you follow the process of layering on top a DM on top of an email, you're not going to have to do it for any longer than a week, right? It's like, 15 minutes a day times by a week to get an absolutely solid top 1% offer. So here's the automated process for email. Number one, you're going to create an Instantly account. Again, free trial is absolutely fine. Set up your Instantly account. I'm not going to walk through details of that because it's easy, right? We're going to add in some email inboxes. We're going to import your target list spreadsheet. And what you can also do is paste this prompt below into ChatGPT. Again, it takes about 10 minutes to set up your Instantly account. It's not hard. It's not technical. It's worth it, essentially. So what that'll do is it'll put this into an automated sequence. So all the founders will get the initial outreach. The names and stuff will be personalized to them. It will send the follow-ups on autopilot. But if the founder responds to you, it will stop the follow-up. So it's just good. And then you'll have this for life. Like, you can literally, anytime that you want to land another offer, you just turn Instantly on, turn the campaign on, and again, you'll have another offer within like 7 days, okay? So at this point, you can sit back, grab a drink, whatever you want to do, just relax, knowing that elite level offers are absolutely coming your way, and they are right around the corner within a matter of probably less than 2 weeks, right? So I was actually meant to say less than a week, right? But 1 to 2 weeks max. It's a good feeling to have. And like I mentioned earlier, now that you've got this set up, right? So you've got your video pitch, you've got your slide presentation, you've got your campaign set up on Instantly. Absolutely, anytime in the future that you want to pick up a new role for whatever reason, you just literally go to Instantly, turn it on, done. Like you have this cash printing machine for life now. So it's very, very well worth the time to set up. So remember, while Instantly is auto sending the email outreach, make sure that you are also layering on top social media DMs, LinkedIn, Insta, etc. It takes very little effort, 15 minutes a day, and it's going to massively boost your conversions. And if you do it this way, the conversions will be so high, you won't need to do it for more than a week, okay? So 15 minutes for like 5 to 7 days, okay? Now, a key point here, guys, is that what we've just been through, what I've just walked you through, this isn't just a framework and a process for landing, elite level offers and making 20, 30K a month and upwards. This is one of the highest value skills on earth. Like I showed you earlier, some social proof, I've built a network and built relationships with some of the most famous guys on the planet through this exact process. When you learn how to grab and hold the attention of, very powerful people, whether they are, 8-figure founders, influencers, investors is another one, athletes, celebrities, and then you can get them to both get their attention and get them to take the exact action that you want. You unlock this new level of power that most men, frankly, will never touch, okay? You can use this exact skill set to get into rooms that you technically have no business being in. You can build a network that opens up doors for life. You can use it to, launch your own brand. You can get mentored by people who others can only watch on YouTube. You can get mentored by them directly. Ultimately, you can build authority, build income, and build leverage faster than 99% of planet Earth. So it's pretty cool. This isn't just about high-ticket sales. It's about control, right? Control of your career, your connections, your network, income. So now, really, there's two options. Number one is you can take what I've shared here today and, ultimately just execute the process by yourself, which is fine. Or you can click the link in the description. You can work closer together with me. I will literally guide you hands-on to get your first elite high ticket sales role and get you trained at an elite level so you can operate at that high level and make the big numbers, 20, 30K a month and upwards. I'll give you the scripts, the systems, the feedback, the offer access, like literally everything, guys, to get you making the money that you want to make. I will literally give it to you. Okay, the link is in the description for that. But ultimately, guys, you now have the formula. So, you know, no excuses. Let's execute. You know, really think about the people who believe in you in life. Don't let them down. And I'll see you in the next video.